You were told that manifestation was about wanting, about imagining, about repeating desires until the universe finally listened. But no one told you the truth. No one told you that wanting comes from lack, and lack has a frequency, a signature, a vibration that the mirror of reality copies with perfect precision. You were never manifesting your desires. You were manifesting your state. Pause. Every time you said, "I want this," you were declaring that you do not have it. And the mirror listened not to your words, but to the emptiness behind them. Because reality is deaf to language, but it is hypersensitive to structure. Your internal structure, your identity, your self-perception. Beat. This is the part they never taught you. This is the part the manifestation gurus can't explain, because it doesn't fit on a vision board. It doesn't fit into a 10-step affirmation video. Here's the truth you were never meant to hear. Reality is not responding to your desires. Reality is reflecting your coherence. Your life, right now as it is a hall of mirrors. Not rewards, not punishments, not tests, just mirrors. Reflecting you back to you. Every heartbreak, every delay, every breakthrough, every, almost, every, why does this keep happening to me? All mirrors, all reflections, not of fate, but of structure. Slow, prophetic tone. You have been walking through your own reflections. You have been living inside your own imprint. You have been running from the very frequency you keep projecting. This is the first lie you must unlearn. Manifestation is not about what you want, because wanting is the loudest announcement of misalignment. The reason 95% of people fail at manifestation is because they are trying to attract a reality that does not recognize their identity. They say they want abundance, but they identify as someone who survives. They say they want love, but they identify as someone unworthy of receiving it. They say they want peace, but they identify as someone who thrives in chaos. They say they want the next level, but they identify as someone who still fears the fall. Beat. Desires do not shape reality. Identity does. Let that sink in. Let it echo. Let it rearrange something inside you. Because this is the first mystical shift. You don't manifest what you want. You mirror what you are. Say it again inside your mind, not as a sentence but as an activation. You mirror what you are. Your life is not built from your wishes. It's built from your frequency. And your frequency is built from your identity. This is the part that hits different because you've felt it your entire life. Every time something good came close but didn't stay. Every time you fixated on a desire but felt the doubt beneath it. Every time you said, "I deserve better," yet felt the old identity whispering, "You don't." The mirror didn't betray you. You just didn't know how it worked. Pause. Tonight, something different begins. Not because I'm speaking, but because you're hearing. Because you wouldn't be here if you weren't on the edge of shift. Because some part of you is done repeating the same loops, done living inside the same reflection. Tonight, identity changes shape. Tonight, the mirror is rewritten. Tonight, the observer steps forward and the old resonance dissolves. This is not another manifestation technique. This is not another video telling you to think positive. This is a transmission, a frequency alignment, a mirror recalibration. You're not being motivated, you're being recoded. Deep cinematic tone, because your next reality isn't somewhere you arrive, it's something you become. And becoming begins with coherence, begins with alignment, begins with the moment you stop wanting and start mirroring. Tonight, you stop chasing. Tonight, you start reflecting. Tonight, you step into the identity that your desires have been waiting for. The question is not, how do I manifest it? The real question is, who must I become for the mirror to recognize me? That question is the beginning of power, the beginning of alignment, the beginning of the next timeline, soft but commanding. If you're ready to shift your identity, if you're ready to reshape your mirror, then anchor yourself into the frequency of this transmission. This is your first ritual activation, not for engagement, for coherence. Comment below, "I align with the mirror." Say it like a declaration. Say it like a commitment. Say it like the identity you're stepping into. Because tonight, the mirror listens. And tonight, the mirror responds. You think you're living in a world made of events. You think circumstances shape you. You think opportunities appear randomly. You think outcomes are created by effort, strategy, or timing. But you've never been told the deeper truth. You are not reacting to reality. You are selecting it every day, every moment, every breath. You are collapsing one of infinite timelines through the silent force of your identity. This is the observer effect, The quantum principle that your act of observing determines what becomes real. Not the universe, not luck, not other people. You, beat. The life you see is the version of reality that matches the way you see yourself. Let that land. Let it rearrange something in your chest. You don't attract outcomes, you activate them. The moment you observe yourself in a certain way, the world reorganizes to match that perception. Not because the universe is magical, but because consciousness is mechanical, precise, consistent, mathematically honest, slow, reverent tone. Your identity is the real scriptwriter. Your self-image is the real architect. Your internal observer is the real generator of your external world. And the deepest tragedy, most people never realize this. They wander through life thinking the world is happening to them, while the entire time it has been happening from them. Beat. They, the herd, the masses, the sleepwalkers, spend their lives complaining about outcomes without ever questioning the identity that created them. They blame timing, people, childhood, trauma, luck. They blame the mirror instead of studying the reflection. But not you. You wouldn't be here if you were like them. You wouldn't be listening if something inside you wasn't waking up. You wouldn't feel this resonance if your observer wasn't already shifting. Let's go deeper. Soft, controlled intensity. Your identity, the way you silently talk to yourself, the way you expect things to go, the way you imagine your future creates a unique vibrational pattern. I call it your observer imprint. It's like a quantum fingerprint, a vibrational signature stamped onto your life. Everything you experience, everything that continues, everything that repeats, is simply the mirror copying this imprint. Look at your patterns, your relationships, your income ceiling, your struggles, your breakthroughs, your cycles. They aren't random. They're consistent because you are consistent. Even your pain has a pattern. Even your success has a rhythm. Even your failures have a familiar taste. Because the mirror isn't showing you the world, it's showing you your imprint. Pause. Let me share something from my own journey, because I'm not speaking from theory. I'm speaking from experience, from collapse, from transformation. There was a time when everything I touched fell apart. Opportunities dissolved, promises broke, people left. I thought I was cursed by circumstance. I thought life was unfair. I thought the universe was ignoring me. But the truth was far less mystical and far more precise. My identity was misaligned with every goal I claimed to want. I wanted abundance, but identified as someone who barely survived. I wanted meaningful connections, but identified as someone unworthy of being chosen. I wanted peace, but internalized a world made of chaos, so the mirror copied it over and over, until the day I realized the mirror wasn't punishing me, it was obeying me. It was waiting for me to shift my imprint, waiting for me to become someone whose identity matched the reality I kept begging for. That moment changed everything. Because once you understand the observer effect, once you understand that identity collapses timelines, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what version of me is the mirror reflecting right now? This is power, not the kind that motivates you for a moment, but the kind that rearranges your entire destiny. Deep tone. You've never been stuck. You've just been consistent. Consistent with an identity you didn't realize you were carrying. And the moment your identity shifts, the moment your observer imprint changes, reality follows with absolute obedience. Think back on the times when life changed suddenly. A new job, a new relationship, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity. It always happened after something in you changed first, even if the world didn't see it. Maybe you stopped settling, maybe you stopped chasing, maybe you got tired of your own patterns, maybe you finally believed you deserved something different. And instantly, the mirror shifted, the timeline bent, the universe rearranged itself, not because you manifested something, but because your observer changed its identity. Beat. You're beginning to feel this now, the movement inside you, that subtle hum behind your thoughts, that quiet sense that something is unfolding, that your next reality is already waiting for you. You can feel the old identity peeling off. You can feel the new imprint assembling. You can feel the mirror responding even before you speak a word, because it's not listening to your voice, it's reading your frequency. And right now, your frequency is shifting. This is the hidden mechanism behind every transformation. Not desire, not affirmations, not technique, identity, imprint, observer. Once these shift, the world must change, not eventually, but immediately. Your next reality isn't something you chase, it's something you match. And in this moment, you're matching something new. There is a law you were never taught, a law older than manifestation, older than prayer, older than belief. A law so precise, so unforgiving, so mechanically honest, that once you understand it, you will never again wonder why your life looks the way it does. The law is this: reality does not copy your wishes. Reality copies your structure. Pause. Every desire you've ever had, every hope, every dream, every vision was irrelevant if the internal structure behind it didn't match. This is the physics behind your existence, not metaphor, not poetry, not mysticism dressed as philosophy. This is the mechanics of consciousness. Because the universe, the quantum field, the fabric of reality is not listening to your words. It's reading the architecture behind them, the blueprint, the alignment, the coherence, or the lack of it. Beat. You can say, I am abundant, but if your nervous system is tuned to scarcity, the mirror will copy scarcity. You can say, I am loved, but if your identity is shaped by abandonment, the mirror will reflect absence. You can say, I am confident, but if your emotional resonance vibrates with doubt, the mirror will show hesitation. This is why affirmations fail, why vision boards do nothing, why positive thinking collapses the moment life applies pressure. Because you cannot outspeak your frequency. You cannot out-visualize your identity. You cannot out-manifest your blueprint. You can only mirror it. Slow, prophetic tone. The mirror does not care about the words you say. It cares about the structure you hold. And that structure is revealed through your most consistent emotional state, not the emotions you show others, the emotions you return to when the noise fades and you are alone with yourself. Fear, hope, uncertainty, desire, shame, confidence, worthiness, guilt, expectation, despair, strength. These are not just feelings, they are frequencies, and frequencies dictate reflection. Beat. Let me tell you something the spiritual world avoids. You've already manifested perfectly, not positively, perfectly. Perfect alignment with your internal imprint, perfect coherence with your identity, perfect mirroring of the blueprint you carry. Everything that exists in your life is aligned with something inside you, even the things you hate, especially the things you repeat. That painful relationship pattern, a mirror of your unhealed attachment to chaos. That money struggle, a mirror of the survival identity you've worn for years. That dream that never arrives, a mirror of the disbelief vibrating behind your desire. This is why nothing changes when you force manifestation techniques from the outside. Because your identity holds the master key. Your structure holds the password. Your emotional resonance holds the access code to the timeline you want. Pause. Reality is obedient. It reflects without judgment, without hesitation, without emotion, like a cosmic algorithm following the exact input you provide. And that input is your coherence, your internal truth, your hidden alignment. You've been taught to attract, but attraction is a myth. Mirroring is the mechanism. Desires only manifest when they match your internal architecture, not when you visualize them, not when you repeat them, not when you journal them into existence. A desire held by a misaligned identity is like typing a password with one wrong character. Nothing opens, not because the universe is denying you, but because your structure isn't recognized by the timeline you're trying to enter. Beat. This is why the same people crash into the same outcomes year after year. They, the ones who complain, the ones who stay stuck, the ones who talk about dreams but secretly expect disappointment, they're not cursed, they're coherent. Coherent with limitation, coherent with fear, coherent with survival mode, coherent with their old identity, and the mirror copies it perfectly, relentlessly, mechanically. This is the brutal truth that becomes liberating the moment you accept it. Because if the mirror copies your structure, then all you need to do is change the structure, not your desires, not your hopes, not your prayers, your structure, your internal architecture, your identity blueprint, your emotional resonance. When these shift, your mirror must shift. Not eventually, not through luck, not by chance. Immediately, slow, rising intensity. Because reality is not external, reality is feedback. A reflection loop, a quantum response mechanism to the frequency of your consciousness. Let's go deeper into this. When you want something from a place of emptiness, you broadcast a frequency of lack, and the mirror reflects lack. When you try to be confident, you broadcast uncertainty, and the mirror reflects hesitation. When you chase someone's love, you broadcast unworthiness, and the mirror reflects distance. When you visualize abundance but emotionally resonate with fear, you broadcast misalignment, and the mirror reflects instability. This is why the universe often gives you the opposite of what you say you want. It's not mocking you, it's mirroring you. You have been working against the mechanics without knowing the mechanics. Until now, beat. Because now you see the pattern, now you see the architecture. Now you understand that the universe is not a genie, but a mirror. Not magical, mechanical, quantum, precise. And here's the most powerful truth you will hear in this entire transmission. When you change your internal structure, the external world loses the ability to stay the same. It cannot. It has no mechanism for it. It must reflect the new blueprint. It must align with the new identity. It must obey the new imprint. This is the physics of consciousness, the mathematics of the mirror, and you are beginning to master it. There is a version of you the mirror has been reflecting, a version you did not choose consciously, but one you have been unconsciously living as. A version shaped not by your desires, but by your wounds, by your fears, by your forgotten memories, by the moments that broke you in ways you never fully acknowledged. This version shows up in every reflection, in every repeated cycle, in every "why does this keep happening to me?" Because the mirror does not reflect your intentions. It reflects your identity, rift the gap between who you say you are and who you actually believe yourself to be. Beat. You think you want love, but the identity the mirror sees is the part of you that never felt chosen. So it reflects abandonment. You think you want success, but the identity the mirror sees is the part of you that grew up afraid to take space. So it reflects invisibility. You think you want stability, but the identity the mirror sees is the part of you that learned chaos was normal. So it reflects instability. This is the truth that hurts before it liberates. Your life has been mirroring the version of you you've been avoiding the longest. The shadow version, the unhealed version, the version who learned to survive instead of expand, the version who learned to endure instead of receive, the version who became small because life taught them to fear their own power. This is the version the mirror has known, not the one you present online, not the one you hope to become, not the one you pretend to be when you're inspired. The mirror sees the version that exists in the silence of your doubts, in the softness of your insecurities, in the heaviness of your private moments. It sees the version that trembles when people leave, the version that tries too hard because it fears being overlooked, the version that overgives because it fears not being enough, the version that hides pain because it fears being too much. This is the identity rift, the distance between your surface self and your true imprint, and you have felt this rift your entire life. Every time you told yourself you were ready, but felt the hesitation in your chest. Every time you said you deserved better, but accepted less. Every time you spoke of a dream, but prepared emotionally for disappointment. You weren't confused, you were coherent with the shadow version, and the mirror reflected that coherence, perfectly, relentlessly, until you noticed the repetition, soft, slow tone. Let's go deeper into the shadows, because transformation doesn't begin with light, it begins with honesty. You have a wound that became an identity, and that identity became your frequency, and that frequency became your reality. If you were abandoned, you mirrored abandonment. If you were criticized, you mirrored unworthiness. If you were ignored, you mirrored invisibility. If you were betrayed, you mirrored distrust. If you were neglected, you mirrored self-neglect. These weren't choices. These were adaptations, survival mechanisms, structures built to protect you when you were too young to understand the cost. But now, those structures imprison you. They hold you in a version of yourself you outgrew long ago. This is why your biggest pain has always shown up as the loudest pattern, because the mirror keeps reflecting the identity you haven't confronted, the relationship that collapses, the opportunity that slips away, the endless feeling of almost, the emotional exhaustion that arrives every time you try to step into a new version. It's not self-sabotage, it's identity preservation. The mirror is loyal to the imprint it knows, because your shadow identity is the one you felt the longest, and the mirror always reflects the strongest signal. But listen closely, this is the breaking point. The rift is widening not to destroy you, but to push you to see the truth. You are not the version the mirror has been reflecting. You are the version trying to emerge. The very reason your life has felt heavy, repetitive, stagnant, painfully predictable, is because your soul is done living inside the shadow. You are feeling the pressure of outgrowing your own patterns. You are feeling the tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. You are feeling the collapse of the survival identity that no longer fits your frequency. This is not a breakdown. This is a breakthrough with a mask. Let me say that again. Your struggle isn't proof that you're failing. It's proof that your old identity is dying. The mirror is glitching. The patterns are cracking. The old structure is collapsing under the weight of who you're meant to become. And that collapse feels like chaos, like confusion, like exhaustion, like emotional heaviness. But it is none of those things. It is rebirth, disguised as discomfort. Slow, prophetic whisper. You are witnessing the death of the identity that kept you small, and the birth of the identity the mirror has been waiting to reflect. This is the identity rift. This is the pain before the shift. This is the shadow before the awakening. Tonight, you will cross the threshold. Tonight, you will meet the version of yourself your mirror has been unable to reflect because you've never stepped into it fully. Tonight, the mirror will change shape. There comes a moment in every transformation when awareness is no longer enough. When seeing the pattern isn't sufficient. When understanding the mirror doesn't change the reflection. Because knowledge does not rewrite identity, only rewiring does. And tonight, that rewiring begins. Not through wishful thinking, not through forced affirmations, not through pretending to be someone you are not, but through shifting the only thing the mirror ever responds to, the internal observer, the part of you that watches your life and decides who you are inside it, the part of you that silently narrates your existence, the part of you that predicts outcomes before they happen, the part of you that reacts emotionally before your mind has time to process it. This observer is the architect of your reality loop, and to break the loop, you must retrain the architect. Soft, guiding tone. There are 3 pillars that shape your observer, 3 structures that determine what the mirror is allowed to reflect, 3 internal mechanisms that you have been unconsciously operating your entire life. Tonight we expose them. Tonight you reclaim them. Tonight you rewrite them. Let's begin. Your self-image is not a thought. It's not a sentence in your mind. It's not a label you choose. Your self-image is a frequency. A vibration formed from years of experiences, memories, wounds, and victories. It's the silent hum behind your actions, the subtle energy behind your decisions, the truth you believe about yourself even when no one is watching. When your self-image carries the frequency of scarcity, the mirror reflects lack. When it carries the frequency of unworthiness, the mirror reflects abandonment. When it carries the frequency of fear, the mirror reflects instability. But when it carries confidence, clarity, certainty, deservability, the mirror has no choice but to reflect those states back to you. Your self-image is the master frequency, the anchor, the blueprint. Change this frequency, and the mirror recalibrates instantly. Beat. So the first step is simple. You must stop seeing yourself as the version you used to be. Your past cannot define your frequency. Your wounds cannot continue to architect your identity. Your history cannot keep choosing your future. From this moment forward, you shift into coherence with the version of you who already embodies the reality you want, not temporarily, not as an exercise, not as a performance, as identity. Your emotional baseline is the loudest broadcast you emit, not the highs when things go well, not the lows when things fall apart. The baseline, the familiar emotional temperature you return to when life quiets down. Some people return to worry, some to frustration, some to emptiness, some to yearning, some to hope, some to power. This baseline is the strongest signal the mirror reads, because emotion is magnetic. It shapes the quantum field by imprinting expectation into your subconscious. If you emotionally expect disappointment, you collapse timelines that confirm it. If you emotionally expect struggle, you activate realities aligned with difficulty. But when you emotionally expect alignment, not through delusion, but through coherence, the mirror bends. Instantly, quiet intensity. This is why your emotional body must be rewired to match the identity you're stepping into. Not through suppression, not through forced positivity, but through a deeper technique, quantum substitution, replacing old emotional reactions with micro-responses from the new identity. Choosing calm where you used to panic, choosing clarity where you used to doubt, choosing patience where you used to chase, choosing discernment where you used to cling, choosing detachment where you used to fear. Each substitution is a new signal to the mirror. Each substitution is a new imprint. Each substitution is a step into the next timeline. This is the part most people misunderstand. Coherence is not about massive action. It's not about discipline for the sake of discipline. It's not about grinding or forcing or proving. Coherence means one thing. Your actions match your identity. Nothing is more powerful, Nothing rewires faster. Nothing transforms the mirror more immediately. When you act from the old identity, you reinforce the old reflection. When you act from the new identity, you collapse old timelines instantly. This is why even the smallest aligned action is more powerful than hours of forced manifestation. Because aligned behavior is the language the mirror listens to. Not the words, not the desires, the behavior. Do you act like someone who is worthy? Do you act like someone with clarity? Do you act like someone with boundaries? Do you act like someone who trusts themselves? Do you act like someone who has already become what they're trying to manifest? The mirror responds to coherence. It reflects identity in motion, deep, prophetic tone. This is rewiring, not by fighting the old identity, but by becoming the new one so consistently that the old identity dissolves without resistance. This is the real transformation, the inner alchemy, the collapse of the outdated imprint. And you can feel it now, the shift in your chest, the quiet recalibration in your mind, the subtle reorganization of your frequency. Your observer is no longer just watching, it's transforming, rebuilding, repatterning. You're not trying to manifest anymore. You're aligning your architecture with the reality that has always been waiting. Soft rise in music. And as you feel this alignment building inside you, anchor it. This is your second ritual activation, a declaration not to me, but to the mirror itself. Comment below, I shift my mirror now. Claim it, feel it, state it as identity, because tonight, your observer is reborn. There is something you felt your entire life, but never had the language to describe. A faint pull toward certain outcomes, a strange resonance with specific futures, moments that felt familiar before they ever happened, choices that didn't feel like choices at all, more like recognitions. You thought it was intuition, you thought it was coincidence, you thought it was luck, déjà vu, or destiny. But what you were feeling was timeline drift, the subtle movement from one version of reality to another, not through force, but through alignment. Because every choice you make, every belief you shift, every emotion you stabilize, every new identity you step into nudges you into a different slice of the quantum field. A new timeline, a new version of the same world with different outcomes waiting for the observer you've become. Pause. Most people live their entire lives on the same repetitive timeline. They think their destiny is fixed because their identity is fixed. They never understand that reality is fluid, that outcomes rearrange themselves around the observer's state. They live the same year over and over again and call it a life, but not you. You wouldn't be here if your frequency wasn't already shifting. You wouldn't resonate with this transmission if your observer wasn't moving out of its old gravitational field, because timeline drift begins the moment you break the mirror loop, the moment you become coherent with a new version of yourself. And once that coherence reaches a certain threshold, something extraordinary happens. Your future stops approaching you and begins waiting for you. Let me explain. The quantum mechanic behind drift. In quantum physics, every possible version of your future already exists as a potential state. These states don't come to you. You don't attract them. You don't manifest them. You select them through identity coherence. Your internal structure collapses one timeline and eliminates the rest. When you shift identity, the field updates. When you update your emotional resonance, the field recalibrates. When you align behavior with your future self, the field locks onto the matching timeline. This is why change feels slow at first. You're still stabilizing your new imprint. But once the imprint solidifies, timeline drift accelerates. Opportunities appear that never existed before. People cross your path who were never in your orbit. Sudden realizations strike without warning. Coincidence becomes pattern. Pattern becomes alignment. Alignment becomes inevitability. This is not magic. It is mechanics. You are not creating the future. You are stepping into the version of reality that recognizes who you've become. Why life changes after internal shifts. Look back at the biggest turning points in your life. Notice the pattern. The change in your external life always came after an internal shift. Always. A moment of clarity, a moment of pain, a moment of decision, a moment of exhaustion, a moment where the old identity finally cracked open, and almost instantly someone arrived. An opportunity surfaced. A path revealed itself. A door opened. A timeline tilted toward alignment. People think these shifts are random. They're not. Life changes because you changed. Your frequency changed. Your self-image changed. Your emotional signature changed. Your tolerance changed. your boundaries changed, your expectations changed, and once those changed, the timeline you used to live on could no longer hold you. It expelled you, pushed you out, released you into the timeline that matched who you were becoming. Slow, mystical tone. This is why certain things collapse right before your life elevates. This is why certain people exit before the next version enters. This is why certain situations break right before breakthroughs appear. It's not sabotage, it's drift. Your old timeline is losing its grip on you. The mirror can't reflect what you're no longer coherent with. Signs you're already drifting. You're feeling them. That's why you're here. Old habits feel unnatural. Old relationships feel misaligned. Old goals feel too small. Old fears feel outdated. Old desires feel meaningless. Old patterns feel like echoes. Old emotional triggers feel weaker. Old doubts feel like memories, not truths. This is timeline drift in motion. You're stepping out of the identity the mirror used to copy and into the identity the mirror has been waiting to reflect. The shift is subtle at first, like soft ripples across a still lake, but then it accelerates. Reality begins responding faster. Synchronicities increase. Intuition intensifies. You feel pulled, not pushed, guided, not confused, aligned, not lost. This is the beginning of quantum coherence, micro actions and macro realities. Every aligned action you take, even the smallest one, nudges you further into your next timeline. Choosing rest over self-sabotage, choosing clarity over chaos, choosing boundaries over desperation, choosing stillness over panic, choosing trust over fear. These micro actions aren't just choices, they're timeline selectors, identity codes, mirror recalibrations, because every time you act in alignment with your future self, you send a signal to the field, this is who I am now, and the field responds, then this is the reality you belong to. Beat. This isn't manifestation, this is physics, identity physics, mirror physics, timeline physics, and you are learning to move through your realities with precision, with coherence, with consciousness. A truth most people never realize: your future is not far, it's not distant, it's not waiting for divine timing. It is one identity shift away. You don't reach your future, you align with it. You match its frequency, you mirror its structure, and the moment you do, your future becomes your present with mathematical inevitability. You're closer than you think, closer than you've ever been, closer than your old identity can comprehend. Your next reality has already recognized you. There is a silence you feel right now, a stillness, a soft, heavy calm that wasn't here before. That is the mirror awakening. The field is responding to you, not the you from yesterday, not the you from your past, not the fragmented identity you inherited from wounds, but the you that emerged through this transmission, the coherent you, the aligned you, the you the mirror has spent years waiting to reflect. Soft, prophetic tone. Reality is rearranging itself in this very moment, not because you asked, but because you became. You crossed the threshold. You stepped out of the shadow identity and into the architecture of your awakened self. Feel that. Feel the subtle shift in the air around you. Feel the quiet sense of inevitability. Feel the way your chest feels slightly different, heavier, yet lighter, as if something inside you finally settled into its rightful place. This is not imagination. This is alignment. Your new identity has already been registered by the field. The quantum field doesn't wait for action to recognize identity. It reads intention. It reads coherence. It reads the emotional signature behind your presence. And right now, your signature is different, stronger, clearer, simpler, more honest. There is no static in your frequency, no contradictions, no internal rift. You are broadcasting a single truth, and the mirror is adjusting with silent precision. I can feel the shift in you. I can sense the way your energy has reorganized. I can hear the steadiness in your breath, the calm behind your focus. This is the birth of a new observer, a new architect of reality, a new identity imprint. This is you stepping fully into your next timeline. The old reality is already dissolving. Listen closely. The problems you've been carrying, they're losing access to you, not because you solved them, but because you no longer vibrationally match them. The people who drained you, their hooks can't attach anymore. Your frequency is too coherent. The fears that held you back, they're shrinking, not because they disappeared, but because you stopped feeding them with identity. The patterns that repeated for years, their loops are breaking. Their momentum is dying. Their relevance is fading. You are no longer the observer who kept them alive. You've stepped out of the cycle. You've stepped out of the old imprint. You've stepped out of the psychological gravity that once held you down. That timeline cannot claim you anymore. Pause, and it knows it. The mirror will reveal your shift before the world does, before your reality visibly changes. Something else always changes first. Your reflection, not in glass. In life, tiny signs, subtle symbols, quiet confirmations. People will treat you differently without knowing why. Opportunities will appear without explanation. Old versions of you will feel distant, as if they happened to someone else. Synchronicities will escalate, timing will tighten, intuition will sharpen. The world will become responsive, smoother, less resistant. Because it's not the world changing, it's you. The mirror just reflects it first. This is the beginning of your new reality. Not loud, not dramatic, not chaotic, but quiet, precise, aligned, like a new timeline sliding into place. A prophetic truth for your next chapter. From this moment forward, you will notice something. Life stops feeling random. It stops feeling unstable. It stops feeling unpredictable. Because when your identity is coherent, your reality becomes predictable in the best way. Aligned choices lead to aligned outcomes. Clear boundaries create clear relationships. Stable emotions create stable opportunities. Strong self-image produces strong results. And you are now the version of you who does not sabotage their own timeline. You are the version who knows their place in the field, who understands their influence, who recognizes their resonance, who no longer negotiates with old patterns. You have stepped into identity maturity, energetic adulthood, quantum authority, and from this place, you will watch your world transform. The final prophecy, listen carefully. Your reflection will change first, and then the world will follow. Every timeline you once feared losing will fall away naturally. Every timeline you suppressed will rise to meet you. Every version of you that you buried under doubt will begin resurfacing. You are no longer a seeker. You are no longer a survivor. You are no longer a fragment. You are aligned. You are coherent. You are awake. And the mirror is awake with you.